Meno, I think not, Socrates. Socrates. Then he was the better for the torpedo's touch? Meno, I think so. Socrates. Mark now the further development. I shall only ask him, and not teach him, and he shall share the enquiry with me. And do you watch and see if you find me telling or explaining anything to him, instead of eliciting his opinion. Tell me, boy, is not this a square of 4 feet which I have drawn? Boy, yes. Socrates, and now I add another square equal to the former one? Boy, yes. Socrates, and a third, which is equal to either of them? Boy, yes. Socrates, suppose that we fill up the vacant corner? Boy, very good. Socrates, here, then, there are 4 equal spaces? Boy, yes. Socrates, and how many times larger is this space than this other? Boy, 4 times. Socrates, but it ought to have been twice only, as you will remember. Boy, true. Socrates, and does not this line, reaching from corner to corner, bisect by each of these spaces? Boy, yes. Socrates, and are there not here 4 equal lines which contain this space? Boy, there are. Socrates, look and see how much this space is. Boy, I do not understand. Socrates, has not each interior line cut off half of the 4 spaces? Boy, yes. Socrates, and how many such spaces are there in this section? Boy, 4. Socrates, and how many is this? Boy, 2. Socrates, and 4 is how many times 2? Boy, twice. Socrates, and this space is of how many feet? Boy, of 8 feet. Socrates, and from what line do you get this figure? Boy, from this. Socrates, that is from the line which extends from corner to corner of the figure of 4 feet. Boy, yes. Socrates, and that is the line which the learned call the diagonal. And if this is the proper name, then you, Meno's slave, are prepared to affirm that the double space is the square of the diagonal? Boy, certainly, Socrates. Socrates, what do you say of him, Meno? Were not all these answers given out of his own head? Meno, yes, they were all his own. Socrates, and yet, as we were just now saying, he did not know? Meno, true. Socrates, but still he had in him those notions of his, had he not? Meno, yes. Socrates, then he who does not know may still have true notions of that which he does not know? Meno, yes. Socrates, and at present these notions have just been stirred up in him, as in a dream. But if he were frequently asked the same questions in different forms, he would know as well as anyone at last? Meno, I dare say, Socrates, without anyone teaching him, he will recover his knowledge of himself if he is only asked questions. Meno, yes, Socrates, and this spontaneous recovery of knowledge in him is a recollection? Meno, true, Socrates, and this knowledge which he now has must he not either have acquired or always possessed? Meno, yes, Socrates, but if he always possessed this knowledge, he would always have known, or if he has acquired that knowledge, he could not have acquired in this life unless he has been taught geometry, for he may be made to do so the same with all geometry and every other branch of knowledge. Now, has anyone ever taught him all this? You must know about him if, as you say, he was born and bred in your house, Meno, and I am certain that no one ever did teach him. Socrates, and yet he has the knowledge? Meno, the fact, Socrates, is undeniable. Socrates, but if he did not acquire the knowledge in this life, then he must have had and learned it at some other time. Meno, clearly he must. Socrates, which must have been the time when he was not a man? Meno, yes. Socrates, and if there have been always true thoughts in him, both at that time when he was and was not a man, which only need to be awakened into knowledge by putting questions to him, his soul must have always possessed this knowledge, for he always either was or was not a man? Meno, obviously. Socrates, and if the truth of all things always existed in the soul, then the soul is immortal. Wherefore be of good cheer and try to recollect what you do not know, or rather what you do not remember. Meno, I feel somehow that I like what you are saying. Socrates, and I, Meno, like what I am saying. Some things I have said of which I am not altogether confident, but that we shall be better and braver and less helpless if we think that we ought to acquire than we should have been if we indulged in the idle fancy that there was no knowing and no use in seeking to know what we do not know. That is a theme upon which I am ready to fight, in word and deed, to the utmost of my power. Meno, there again, Socrates, your words seem to me excellent. Socrates, then, as we are agreed that a man should inquire about that which he does not know, shall you and I make an effort to inquire together into the nature of virtue? Meno, by all means, Socrates, and yet I would much rather return to my original question, whether in seeking to acquire virtue we should regard it as a thing to be taught, or as a gift of nature, or as coming to men in some other way. Socrates, had I the command of you as well as of myself, Meno, I would not have inquired whether virtue is given by instruction or not, until we had first ascertained what it is. But as you think only of controlling me, who am your slave, and never of controlling yourself, such being your notion of freedom, I must yield to you, for you are irresistible, and therefore I have now to inquire into the qualities of a thing of which I do not as yet know the nature. At any rate, will you condescend a little and allow the question whether virtue is given by instruction or in any other way to be argued upon hypothesis, as the geometrician when he is asked whether a certain triangle is capable of being inscribed in a certain circle will reply, I cannot tell you as yet, but I will offer a hypothesis which may assist us in forming a conclusion. If the figure be such that, when you have produced a given side of it, the given area of the triangle falls short by an area corresponding to the part produced, then one consequence follows, and if this is impossible, then some other, and therefore I wish to assume a hypothesis before I tell you whether this triangle is capable of being inscribed in a circle. That is a geometrical hypothesis, and we too, as we know not the nature and qualities of virtue, must ask whether virtue is or is not taught under a hypothesis, as thus if virtue is of such a class of mental goods, will it be taught or not? Let the first hypothesis be that virtue is or is not knowledge. In that case, will it be taught or not? Or, as we were just now saying, remembered? For there is not use in disputing about that name. But is virtue taught or not? Or rather, does not everyone see that knowledge alone is taught? Meno, I agree. Socrates, then if virtue is knowledge, virtue will be taught? Meno, certainly. Socrates, then now we have made a quick end of this question. If virtue is of such a nature, it will be taught, and if not, not. Meno, certainly. Socrates, the next question is whether virtue is knowledge or of another species? Meno, yes, that appears to be the question which comes next in order. Socrates, do we not say that virtue is a good? This is a hypothesis which is not set aside. Meno, certainly. Socrates, now, if there be any sort of good which is distinct from knowledge, virtue may be that good. But if knowledge embraces all good, then we shall be right in thinking that virtue is knowledge? Meno, true. Socrates, and virtue makes us good? Meno, yes. Meno, yes. Socrates, and if we are good, then we are profitable, for all good things are profitable? Meno, yes. Socrates, then virtue is profitable? Meno, that is the only inference. Socrates, then now let us see what are the things which severally profit us, health and strength and beauty and wealth. This and the like of this we call profitable? Meno, true. Socrates, and yet these things may also sometimes do us harm. Would you not think so? Yes. Meno. Yes. Socrates. And what is the guiding principle which makes them profitable or the reverse? Are they not profitable when they are rightly used, and hurtful when they are not rightly used? Meno. Certainly. Socrates. Next, let us consider the goods of the soul. They are temperance, justice, courage, quickness of apprehension, memory, magnanimity, and the like. Meno. Surely. Socrates. And such of these as are not knowledge, but of another sort, are sometimes profitable and sometimes hurtful, as, for example, courage, wanting prudence, which is only a sort of confidence. When a man has no sense, he is harmed by courage, but when he has sense, he is profited. Meno. True. Socrates. And the same may be said of temperance and quickness of apprehension. Whatever things are learned or done with sense are profitable, but when done without sense, they are hurtful. Meno. Very true. Socrates. And in general, all that the soul attempts or endures when under the guidance of wisdom ends in happiness, but when she is under the guidance of folly, in the opposite. Meno. That appears to be true. Socrates. If then virtue is a quality of the soul and is admitted to be profitable, it must be wisdom or prudence, since none of the things of the soul are either profitable or hurtful in themselves, but they are all made profitable or hurtful by the addition of wisdom or of folly. And therefore, if virtue is profitable, virtue must be a sort of wisdom or prudence. Meno. I quite agree. Socrates. And the other goods, such as wealth and the like, of which we were just now saying that they are sometimes good and sometimes evil, do not they also become profitable or hurtful, accordingly as the soul guides and uses them rightly or wrongly, just as the things of the soul herself are benefited when under the guidance of wisdom and harmed by folly? Meno. True. Socrates. And the wise soul guides them rightly, and the foolish soul wrongly? Meno. Yes. Socrates. And is not this universally true of human nature? All other things hang upon the soul, and the things of the soul herself hang upon wisdom, if they are to be good. And so wisdom is inferred to be that which profits, and virtue, and we say is profitable. Meno. Certainly. Socrates. And thus we arrive at a conclusion that virtue is either wholly or partly wisdom. Meno. I think that what you are saying, Socrates, is very true. Socrates. But if this true, but if this is true, then the good are not by nature good. Meno. I think not. Socrates. If they had been, there would assuredly have been discerners of characters among us who would have known our future great men, and on their showing we should have adopted them, and when we had got them, we should have kept them in the citadel out of the way of harm, and set a stamp upon them far rather than upon a piece of gold, in order that no one might tamper with them, and when they grew up they would have been useful to the state. Meno. Yes, Socrates, that would have been the right way. Socrates. But if the good are not by nature good, are they made good by instruction? Meno. There appears to be no other alternative, Socrates. On the supposition that virtue is knowledge, there can be no doubt that virtue is taught. Socrates. Yes, indeed. But what if that supposition is erroneous? Meno. I certainly thought just now that we were right. Socrates. Yes, Meno. But a principle which has any soundness should stand firm not only just now, but always. Meno. Well, and why are you so slow of heart to believe that knowledge is virtue? Socrates. I will try and tell you why, Meno. I do not retract the assertion that if virtue is knowledge, it may be taught. But I fear that I have some reason in doubting whether virtue is knowledge. For consider now and say whether virtue, and not only virtue but anything is taught, must not have teachers and disciplines. Men, surely. Socrates. And conversely, may not the art of which neither teachers nor disciplines exist be assumed to be incapable of being taught? Meno, true. But do you think that there are no teachers of virtue? Socrates. I have certainly often inquired whether there were any, and taken great pains to find them, and have never succeeded, and many have assisted me in the search, and they were the persons whom I thought the most likely to know. Here, at the moment when he is wanted, we fortunately have sitting by us Anytus, the very person of whom we should make enquiry. To him let us repair. In the first place, he is the son of a wealthy and wise father, Anthemion, who acquired his wealth not by accident or gift, like Ismenias the Theban, who has recently made himself as rich as Polycrates, but by his own skill and industry, and who is a well-conditioned, modest man, not insolent or overbearing or annoying. Moreover, this son of his has received a good education, as the Athenian people certainly appear to think, for they choose him to fill the highest offices, and these are the sort of men from whom you are likely to learn whether they are any teachers of virtue, and who they are. Please, Anytus, to help me and your friend Meno in answering our question. Who are the teachers? Consider the matter thus. If we wanted Meno to be a good physician, to whom should we send him? Should we not send him to the physicians? And certainly, Socrates. Or if we wanted him to be a good cobbler, should we not send him to the cobblers? Any. Yes, Socrates, and so forth. Any, yes, Socrates, let me trouble you with one more question. When we say that we should be right in sending him to the physicians if we wanted him to be a physician, do we mean that we should be right in sending him to those who profess the art rather than to those who do not, and to those who demand payment for teaching the art and profess to teach it to anyone who will come and learn? And if these were our reasons, should we not be right in sending him?